3 months ago, I received a package I never ordered. At first, I didn't think much about it. People get the wrong deliveries all the time. I carried it inside, checked the label, and immediately noticed something strange. My name was correct. My address was correct. Everything was correct except one thing. I had never bought whatever was inside. There was no sender name, no company logo, nothing. Just a plain brown box. I opened it expecting something random. Instead, I found a small digital camera. That was it. No note, no receipt, no instructions. Just a camera. I turned it on. The battery was fully charged. The memory card contained only one photograph. It showed a street. Nothing unusual, just an ordinary residential street somewhere in town. I almost deleted the image before noticing something in the corner. My car. I zoomed in. It was definitely my car. The photo had been taken less than 2 blocks from my apartment. I checked the timestamp. The picture was taken the previous day. I felt confused, but not concerned. Maybe someone had accidentally mailed me their camera. Maybe it was a weird mistake. I put the camera in a drawer and forgot about it. A week later, another package arrived. Same box, same handwriting, no sender. This time, there was a flash drive. Nothing else. I plugged it into my laptop, one video file. The video lasted 20 seconds. At first, it showed nothing but a sidewalk. Then the camera moved. I immediately recognized the location. It was the coffee shop where I stopped every morning before work. The person recording zoomed toward the entrance. A few seconds later, I walked out carrying my usual coffee. The video ended. I replayed it 3 times. Someone had recorded me. The timestamp showed it was filmed 4 days earlier. I checked outside my apartment. Nobody. I checked social media. Nothing strange. For the first time, I felt uneasy. Not scared, just uncomfortable. Someone had clearly been watching me. The logical explanation was that a friend was playing a prank. But none of my friends would spend money mailing anonymous packages. And none of them knew where I lived after my recent move. I decided to ignore it. That worked for exactly 6 days. Then, package number 3 arrived. This one was heavier. Inside was a notebook. The first page contained a single sentence. "You're not paying attention." That was it. Nothing else. I flipped through every page. Empty. The message bothered me more than the camera or the video, because now someone wasn't just watching, they were communicating. I called the police. The officer listened politely, looked at the packages, and asked the obvious question. "Have they threatened you?" "No." "Asked for money?" "No." "Contacted you directly?" "No." He shrugged. There wasn't much they could do. Technically, no crime had occurred. Someone had mailed me objects. Weird, but not illegal. I knew he was right. Still, the situation felt wrong. That night I couldn't sleep. Around 2 a.m., I got out of bed and opened the notebook again. The sentence stared back at me. "You're not paying attention." The more I looked at it, the more irritated I became. Paying attention to what? The next morning I left for work. Halfway to my car, I stopped. A folded piece of paper sat under the windshield wiper. My stomach tightened. I opened it. 4 words. Check the camera again. I immediately drove home. The camera was still inside the drawer. I turned it on. The same photograph appeared. Then I noticed something I had missed before. There was a date displayed on a billboard in the background. The date wasn't from the day before, it was from 6 months earlier. I froze. That wasn't possible. The timestamp said the image was recent, but the billboard proved it wasn't. Someone had altered the file, or wanted me to think they had. For the first time, I began wondering if the packages weren't random at all. Maybe they were leading me somewhere. Maybe the notebook message was true. Maybe I wasn't paying attention. And maybe that was exactly what the sender wanted me to realize. The rest of that day, I couldn't focus on anything. The photograph, the video, the notebook, none of it made sense. Whoever was sending the packages clearly wanted my attention, but they weren't asking for money or making threats. It felt more like they were trying to show me something. The question was why. That evening, I spread everything across my kitchen table: the camera, the flash drive, the notebook. I spent hours looking for connections. Around midnight, I noticed something strange. The street from the photograph looked familiar. Not because I had driven through it recently, but because I'd seen it years ago. I opened Google Maps and started searching. 10 minutes later, I found it. The exact street. My pulse quickened. The location was nearly 40 minutes from my apartment. The strange part wasn't the street itself. The strange part was what stood at the end of it. An old storage facility. I immediately recognized the name. 5 years earlier, I rented a storage unit there after moving out of my first apartment. I hadn't thought about that place in years. The next morning, I drove there. The facility looked almost abandoned. Most of the buildings were still standing, but many units were empty. The manager's office was locked. As I walked through the rows of storage units, an uncomfortable feeling settled in my stomach. I finally found my old unit, number 214. The lock had been removed years ago. The door was slightly open. I stood there staring at it. Part of me wanted to leave. Instead, I pulled the door open. The unit was empty. Almost. A small cardboard box sat in the center of the floor, waiting. My heart started racing. I slowly approached. No shipping label, no name, no explanation. Inside was another note. This one contained only a date. August 14th, 5 years ago. I immediately recognized it. It was the day my best friend Ethan disappeared. The memory hit me like a truck. Ethan and I had been friends since college. One day, he simply vanished. No goodbye, no explanation. His family searched for months. The police investigated. Nothing. Eventually, everyone accepted that they would probably never know what happened. Everyone except me. For years, I wondered if I could have done something differently. If I missed some sign, some warning, some clue. I stared at the date written on the paper. My hands were shaking, because suddenly I knew exactly what these packages were about. Ethan, the camera, the notebook, the storage unit. Someone wanted me to remember Ethan, but why now? I drove home feeling sick. That evening, package number 4 arrived. I almost didn't open it. But curiosity won. Inside was a second flash drive. I plugged it into my laptop. Another video appeared. The footage showed a parking lot. At first, I didn't recognize it. Then I saw 2 people walking toward the camera. One of them was me. The other was Ethan. My heart stopped. The video had been recorded 5 years earlier. I'd never seen it before. The camera followed us as we crossed the parking lot. Then Ethan stopped walking. He turned toward me. The video had no audio, but I could see him speaking. Then the footage froze. The final frame zoomed toward Ethan's face, and beneath it appeared a sentence. Remember what he said? The screen went black. I sat there frozen. I remembered that day. At least I thought I did. Ethan and I had grabbed lunch, talked about work, talked about life. Nothing unusual. At least that's what I always believed. But now I wasn't so sure. The message kept repeating inside my head. Remember what he said? I spent hours trying to reconstruct the conversation. Most of it was gone. 5 years is a long time. Then suddenly a fragment returned. Not the entire conversation, just one sentence. A sentence Ethan said before we left. "I think someone's following me." The memory hit me so hard I nearly stood up. I hadn't thought about those words in years. At the time I laughed. I thought he was joking. Ethan laughed too. Then we changed the subject. 2 days later, he disappeared. My hands felt cold, because for the first time I realized something horrifying. What if he wasn't joking? What if he had actually been scared? And what if I was the only person he told? I looked around my apartment. The silence suddenly felt different, heavier. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. A single text message appeared. "You're finally paying attention." I stared at the screen. A second message arrived. "One more package." Then the sender disappeared. And for the first time since this started, I wasn't just curious. I was afraid. I barely slept that night. The message kept replaying in my head. "You're finally paying attention." Whoever was sending the packages knew about Ethan, not just his disappearance. They knew details almost nobody else knew. They knew about the conversation in the parking lot. The conversation I had completely forgotten. By morning, I had made up my mind. If there was one more package coming, I was going to find out who was behind it. The next day passed painfully slowly. Every sound in the hallway made me check the door. Around 7 p.m., I heard a knock. One knock, then silence. I opened the door immediately. Nobody was there, just a final box, smaller than the others. I carried it inside and sat at the kitchen table. For several minutes, I simply stared at it. Then I opened it. Inside was a manila folder. Nothing else, no note, no message, just a folder. I opened it and immediately saw Ethan's name. My heart started pounding. The folder contained copies of police reports, witness statements, photographs, and newspaper clippings. Most of it looked familiar. I'd seen some of these documents years ago when everyone was searching for him. Then I found something I had never seen before. A witness statement. The report had never been released publicly. According to the document, a gas station employee reported seeing Ethan the night before he disappeared. Ethan wasn't alone. He was arguing with another man. The witness couldn't identify the man. But one detail stood out. The employee claimed Ethan repeatedly pointed toward a black SUV parked across the street. The same vehicle had reportedly been seen near Ethan's apartment multiple times during the previous month. I kept reading. Another report, another witness, another mention of the same SUV. My stomach tightened because none of this had been shared during the investigation. Then I reached the final page, a photograph, the black SUV, parked outside a building. I recognized the location immediately. It wasn't from 5 years ago. It was recent. Very recent. The date was from 3 months earlier. Someone had been investigating Ethan's case long after everyone else gave up. Tucked behind the photo was a folded piece of paper. I unfolded it. One sentence. The answer is in Unit 214. I froze. The storage unit. I had already been there. It was empty. At least I thought it was. Less than an hour later, I was back at the facility. The sun had already set. The rows of storage units looked even more abandoned than before. I unlocked Unit 214 and stepped inside. At first, everything looked exactly the same. Then I noticed something, a loose floor panel near the back wall. My pulse accelerated. I crouched down and lifted it. Underneath was a small metal box. Inside were dozens of documents, photographs, receipts, notes, and one sealed envelope. Across the front were 3 words. For my friend. My hands shook as I opened it. The letter was written by Ethan. I recognized his handwriting instantly. The date was 3 days before he disappeared. I started reading. The letter explained everything. Months before he vanished, Ethan had discovered financial fraud inside the company where he worked. At first he ignored it. Then he realized the people involved were stealing millions. When he tried reporting it internally, strange things started happening. Cars following him, anonymous phone calls, people watching his apartment. He became convinced someone wanted him to stay quiet. The reason he never told anyone was simple. He was afraid. Then I reached the final paragraph. I don't know how this ends. If you're reading this, something probably happened to me. If it did, I need you to know something. None of this was your fault. You laughed when I told you someone was following me because I laughed too. I wanted you to think I was joking. The truth is, I was trying to protect you. If anything happens, don't waste your life looking for me. Just live your life. I read the last sentence 3 times, then a 4th, then a 5th. For years, I carried guilt without even realizing it. A part of me always wondered if I had missed something, if I could have helped, if I should have listened. But Ethan had known exactly what he was doing. The packages weren't trying to solve a mystery. They were trying to deliver a message. A message I should have received years ago. I sat there in silence until I noticed one final document at the bottom of the box. It revealed the identity of the person who had been sending the packages. The retired detective who worked Ethan's case. After retiring, he continued investigating on his own. He eventually found the storage box and Ethan's letter. Then he spent months trying to find me. Not because he wanted to reopen the case, because he believed I deserved closure. The detective had passed away 2 months earlier. His daughter found his notes. She discovered the letter, and she carried out the final task on his list. Send the truth to Ethan's friend. Suddenly, everything made sense. The camera, the videos, the notebook, the messages. They weren't meant to scare me. They were designed to make me pay attention long enough to uncover the truth myself. A week later, I visited Ethan's parents. For the first time in years, we talked openly about him. Not about the mystery, not about the disappearance, about the person he was, the memories we almost forgot, the stories that actually mattered. And that's when I realized something. Closure isn't always finding every answer. Sometimes closure is finally accepting the answers you already have. I still don't know exactly what happened to Ethan. Maybe I never will. But I know he didn't forget the people he cared about. Because 5 years after disappearing, he still found a way to leave one final message. And honestly, that was enough. The end.